hair slicked back.
You're like
with my Mario shirt on, even though we're not going to talk about Mario.
Yeah, you're like Koopa in the original Mario Brothers movie. You're like Dennis Hopper.
Okay, yeah, that's 30-year.
Have you seen that?
Not recently.
Yeah, I saw it when I was like 10 or something.
Right.
And my dad was like, "Are you sure you want to watch this?" I understand it's not a good movie. And I'm like, "Yeah, I want to watch this. I love Mario." And at the end of it, I was just like, "Well, that sure was a movie." Yes. I don't know how I feel about it.
I mean, yes. No matter what, at the end you could say, that was a movie.
That was definitely a movie. I want to dig it up to show Christy.
All right.
That was one of my plans for this weekend. I wanted to show her. But now I'm like, I don't know how to get it. It's not streaming anywhere.
Is it? Okay.
Unless you know something I don't. I think you have to buy it.
I think it used to be streaming.
I'll have to check. Anyways,
let's get recording. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Media Boat Podcast, your weekly episodes for news and thoughts on movie, TV, music, and video games, not necessarily in that order. My name is Mike. His name is Matt.
My name is Matt. His name is Mike. Welcome. This is episode 378. This is April the 8th, 2023. And this is it. This is still April somehow. We're cruising through 2023.
I mean, it's only been a week of April.
I know, it's wild.
We were on last week.
I was thinking about it, like, how is it already April?
Don't worry. Soon we can dig Justin Timberlake out.
Sure.
Because it's going to be May.
It's going to be May. Well, before we get there, though, we have a whole month to get through, and we have a podcast to present to you today. As you mentioned, all of those media things and more, thoughts, news, whatever you're asking for. So thank you for joining us.
Yes, and let's get right into it, starting with the music section. We start the music with the Billboard, and start the Billboard with the Hot 100. Yes. And number one song is...
Yeah, a new one this week.
New. Like Crazy by Jimin.
Yes, Jimin of BTS. Solo, his first solo EP. This is the first single off of that. Number one this week.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Jimin.
At number 2, Flowers by Miley Cyrus. At 3, Last Night by Morgan Wallen. At 4, Kill Bill by SZA. And rounding out your top 5, Creepin' by Metro Boomin, The Weeknd, and 21 Savage.
Yep. So pretty much everything else just moved down a peg to let Jimin in.
Yep. And then everything will move back up a peg to let Jimin out. As for your album chart, your Billboard 200, at number 1, One Thing at a Time by Morgan Wallen.
Yep.
At 2, Face EP by Jimin. Just missing out on that double number 1 slots.
Just missing out.
Coming in at 3, did you know that there's a tunnel under Ocean Boulevard?
Yes.
That's by Lana Del Rey, which we talked about.
We talked about that last
2 weeks ago. Yep. At number 4, Getting Old by Luke Combs. And rounding out your top 5, SLS by SZA.
Is Luke Combs getting old?
No. Because he's the same age as us.
Oh, no. You're young, Luke Combs. You're very young.
Yes. So I actually did start listening to that album.
Okay.
Because I was trying to get ready for Stagecoach because he's going to be there.
Yeah.
And then I stopped halfway through.
Oh, no.
And I never went back. So I forgot
I
was
listening
that
to Luke Combs' material is getting old?
Yes.
Okay. I'm glad we had that discussion. All right. So those are your new releases.
Yes, but if you don't like any of those songs...
Never mind, that's your Billboard 200.
But if you don't like any of those
These are your new releases.
These are your new releases.
Got ahead of myself.
Starting with Born to be Wild.
Not that Born to be Wild.
Okay, Born to be Wild by Anne Margaret. Multitudes by Feist. Yes, that Feist.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Big Picture. Or Big Picture by Fiend Lily. A River Running to Your Heart by Fruit Bats. ... So Unknown by Jesus Peace. Creatures of the Late Afternoon by Kid Koala. Henry Street by The Tallest Man on Earth.
Damn.
And lastly, 72 Seasons by Metallica.
That's
Yes,
a lot of seasons.
that Metallica still putting out new music.
Still going, still cruising.
All right, so let's cruise on over then into the news section.
The news. Yes, we're going to talk about some news.
Yes, and we're going to start with the Recording Academy.
Yeah.
Because they've announced that they are teaming up with several United Nations human rights supported global initiatives in an effort to use music to promote social justice.
Hey.
The multifaceted campaign will engage major artists to use their talents and platform to galvanize support for United Nations human rights goals, including advocacy for LGBTQ plus rights, gender equality, women's empowerment, climate justice, and a broad range of other human rights issues. The right here, right now.
I was hoping you were going to sing it.
Right here. That's what I mean. That's what it was me singing it.
Kind of.
Right here, right now, right here, right now.
Anyway.
Yeah. The right here, right now music initiative aims to combat the human rights crisis resulting from climate change. The first activation is the Right Here, Right Now mini global climate concert series, which will feature artists performing in small concert venues while raising awareness about climate issues such as floods, droughts, fires, tornadoes, hurricanes, tsunamis, food insecurities, clean water, ocean acidity, deforestation, mental health, and more. Hosted by United Nations Human Rights and the Recording Academy, the mini global climate concert series will kick off next week on April 13th at the Boulder Theater in Colorado with headliners Wesley Schultz of the Lumineers and powerhouse singer Yola. The inaugural concert, which will be filmed by Citizen Pictures for a later broadcast, in case you were wondering, is being produced by AEG Presents and supported by the University of Colorado Boulder.
Makes sense.
Right here, right now, Music is planning to host many global climate concerts in numerous cities on multiple continents. It's a worldwide initiative.
Cool. Yeah. Why not? Let's team up for good causes. I like that. I like the vibe of it. Hopefully that'll raise some money, and hopefully people will enjoy it, and hopefully there'll be good performances out of it.
It feels like they're doing the festival kind of idea for all of these different social justice causes.
It's good. It's cool. I like that idea. It's better than just sitting around and talking a big game. It's like they're doing something potentially about it, which is cool.
Looking at you, Spotify.
Haha. Indeed.
All right. So let's get to our second story.
It's a follow-up.
Yes. Follow-up. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about how Anitta, singer Anitta, new artist Anitta, recognized?
well, okay, not necessarily a new artist,
but she was Grammy nominated Best New Artist Anitta.
Yes.
I think it's a better way of putting it there.
Right.
Grammy nominated Best New Artist Anitta. We talked about her and her
feud.
I was going to say disgruntled.
Sure.
Yeah, feud with Warner Music Group.
Yes.
Well, the two have come to an agreement to part ways.
At long last.
Yes. Quote, after 11 years of successful partnership, we've agreed to go our separate ways. Read a statement from the label and artist. Quote, Anitta would like to thank the Warner Music team for all their support.
Sure.
And the Warner Music team wishes Anitta all the best in the future.
I bet they do.
Close quote. The Brazilian pop star has been signed to the company for 11 years, but in recent months has expressed her displeasure with Warner Records and a desire to leave her contract.
Yes.
She took those issues to social media last month, which we had reported on, including uploading a series of posts on Instagram where she posted in English, and Twitter where she used Portuguese.
And we talked about that in a story a couple weeks ago, where we mentioned some of the things she specifically had to say, like using your music and ads without like
letting her know
without approval, having her as the face of certain things that she didn't want to be in, that kind of thing. It was just she had gotten to the point where they were not using her image and music in the way that she supported, and she was over it. So she wanted out of the contract, but Warner Music was basically telling her that there was no easy way out. So happy to hear that they finally came to an agreement here, and that she's free to move about the cabin, and hopefully she'll go, to somewhere that fits her style better, that fits her needs and wants, and or maybe even put out her own music. I mean, she's been doing this for a while. Maybe a self-release model is maybe more her style at this point.
We have seen some successful self-release models.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It could also mean that she could sign with someone from Brazil.
It could be, yeah. She could take it home.
Yes.
I mean, she's got a big enough name now internationally. People know who Anitta is now. So yeah, that's exciting that she's finally gotten what she wanted.
A way out.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So let's move on then to thoughts. And you listened to something.
I'll be real brief here. So the indie band Wednesday.
Not to be confused with the Netflix show.
No, different.
Wednesday.
Very different. Jenna Ortega is not involved.
Okay.
Anyway, she has damn it. The band
Gotcha.
got me. Ran right into that wall. So the band has put out a new record. This is their fifth under the name Wednesday, but it's only their third, I believe, as a full band. And yes, it's called Rat Saw God, and it's already getting acclaim across the board from indie music critics and websites. It's fantastic. They are a band from North Carolina, and it checks because when you listen to them, they use a Southern influence. There are some songs that sound country. There's a country influence on the way that the lead singer sings. It's very much from a perspective of somebody who grew up in the South. A lot of the lyrics are use a lot of very visual, like a day in a life scenarios from somebody who's lived down there. And so it's very a place and time. But then it's also influenced by a lot of 90s alt rock. So it's like walls of noisy sound, a lot of that kind of riffing going on, but with enough of that Southern flair that it still feels unique, it still feels original. It doesn't feel tired like a lot of those like bands trying to be Nirvana, for example, sound. It's a really unique combination of things, and Wednesday really makes it work. And this record is the best example of that yet. From front to back, it is spectacular. And like this combined with the Boy Genius record last year, we're really seeing a renaissance right now for indie rock. I feel like indie rock is having a moment again, and it's the women that are spearheading it. Wednesday is led by a female singer, and
you talked about Boy Genius last week.
That's what I'm saying. I mentioned that. Yeah, like I feel like combined, like there really is a moment right now where these like you have these very strong women leading these not exactly traditional, but definitely indie rock sounds that harken back to a couple decades prior. I feel like indie music had an electronic moment that we're just seeing the end of. And yeah, I feel like the rock bands are back, and I think it's perfect timing, and it's good to see it happen. So yeah, it's excellent. I recommend it if you like that kind of 90s rock vibe. Give it a shot.
Sounds good.
So that's Wednesday.
So I did listen to an album.
Okay.
So last month, Linkin Park released its 20th anniversary vinyl compilation of Meteora as it celebrated its 20-year anniversary.
Yes.
This week, all of that was released on streaming.
Hey.
So if you didn't pay $300 for that vinyl, you can listen to the entire thing on streaming. It covers a remastered version of Meteora, the Live in Texas, the Live in Nottingham, as well as the demos and bonus tracks from Meteora, including the new single Lost that was recently released 2 weeks ago that we talked about. Yeah. Something like that. Or not 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, 2 or 3 months ago that we talked about.
Linkin Park from the Vault.
Yes.
Sorry.
Chester's version.
Oh no. No. I was thinking that, but I was like, I'm not going to say
the Vault.
Ooh. I'm glad you said it, not me.
All right. But yeah, all that's available for streaming right now.
Cool.
I got through it. Well, I didn't
You
get
got
through.
through
No,
it.
I didn't get through the live stuff. I just went through the
Yeah.
regular. I was like, oh yeah, I remember.
Good remaster.
Good remaster. Good for listening
Speaking
to
of
this.
remaster, I saw that part of this project is that they also up-res all of the music videos to 4K
Really?
from that era. You should check that out. And maybe they're on YouTube. But yeah, I was like, that's a neat idea.
On their YouTube channel, I did notice that they have all the behind-the-scenes stuff from that tour
cool.
as well. That's in 4:3 though, so
well, you know,
prepare your.
You can't really add ratio
prepare
to
your
something
eyes.
that doesn't have ratio. But yes, but yeah, no, I feel like the music video move, that's really smart, and I feel like more artists should be doing that if they can afford to. That's awesome. So
yeah, if you want to listen to like all the demos, all the sampling that they did for that iconic album, as well as all the unreleased stuff, it's all available on streaming now. You don't need to have a vinyl to listen to it.
Hey, well, that's good. That's good news for all those Linkin Park fans out there.
Yes.
Cool.
All
right.
Let's move on then
Roll
into
right
video games, and we start with new releases.
Yes.
Starting with Process of Elimination.
It's a good name for a game.
For the PS4 and the Switch.
Yep.
There's also Sherlock Holmes, The Awakened.
Which I understand is a remastered of the game that came out prior.
And that is for everything. Complete and total remaster. You need it everywhere. There's also Tron Identity for the Switch and PC. I didn't realize they were making a new Tron game.
Yeah, I remember this was at a Nintendo Direct, I believe, when they showed the Switch version. Yeah, it would have to be. And I remember there was speculation at the time, does this mean we're getting a Tron movie? Well, no, apparently that's not what it meant. The game's coming out without any sort of tag to any sort of other product. So just the game.
Boo.
You know.
There's also Ghostwire, Tokyo, coming for the Xbox Series X. That was already a PlayStation game prior.
Yes, the year of console exclusivity is over, so you're getting the Xbox version now.
Yeah. Or if you have PlayStation is Extra, I think you can get it on that as well, streaming.
Notable because this was I believe this was the last game that Tango GameWorks put out before the Microsoft Bethesda purchase was finalized.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just missed that window.
And lastly, in new releases, Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection for the PS4, Switch, and PC.
Did you ever play the Mega Man Battle Network games?
No.
They're pretty good. I've had 3, I think.
Is this the one where they're in like the 9x9 grid? Or the
yes,
3x3 grid?
It's the grid-based one where it's kind of like there's cards and you can use those for powers. A lot of people really like these games. So yeah, a collection of them available now.
Ooh, okay. Cool. Right. Well, then let's stick with some Nintendo news.
Yes.
And go right into talking about Shigeru Miyamoto, creator of Mario.
Mario's having a big week with the movie coming out. So Mario's also been in the news for other reasons because a lot of people have been interviewing Miyamoto this week.
Yes. So Mario creator Shigeru Miyamoto has suggested Nintendo could be moving away from the, quote, challenging task of developing mobile titles starring the company's mascots. Quote, mobile apps will not be the primary path of future Mario games, end quote. Miyamoto told Variety as part of the interview for the upcoming film. Super Mario Run, which was released in 2016 for mobiles, and Mario Kart Tour, which was released in 2019, seem to be the only Mario games released for
so far.
Mobile so far. Of course, there are other Nintendo properties such as Fire Emblem, Animal Crossing, and Pikmin that have also made mobile debuts in the recent years. But of course, we can't be forgetting Nintendo's largest affiliated success of Pokemon Go with Niantic's location-based Pokemon game, which, as of last year, has generated $6 billion in player spending.
Yeah. Besides Pokemon Go, Nintendo is probably looking at a lot of mobile initiatives that have yet to really fulfill their promise of being super big successes. I think Mario Run was a success when it first came out because it had a unique model where it was like you could play it for free for a little bit or pay one time basically to unlock it.
Yep.
Which was, I remember, kind of controversial at the time, but eventually people just moved on. And that's the thing. I think like what Nintendo found out is that the mobile audience is fickle. Something will hit for like a few months and then just completely drop off, unless it's something that's supported as continuously as Pokemon Go. And I think what they realized is that Mario as a concept and the Mario franchise just doesn't fit well with that model. I think that there was just nothing in there they could have done to really keep Mario Run going any further than it did. And I think they're realizing that now, years after that initiative.
To be fair, Pokemon Go did have a significant step up by already having 7 or 8 generations by the time it was launched.
Yes.
And then locking away 6 generations and only releasing the first one to bait everyone into that nostalgia.
It's a smart drip feed approach to do it. And I get why they did it the way they did. But yeah, I mean, the long and short of it, though, is that a lot of people read other things of this interview to suggest that a proper Mario game is coming down the pipe very soon, no pun intended. And it looks like maybe there will be some sort of future Nintendo Direct that might have a hint at that, whether it's a Switch game, maybe a sequel to Odyssey, who really knows? But it seems like the one thing we know for sure is it won't be on phones. Because, they just tried that. Wasn't really a Nintendo-like solution for them, and they're moving on. So, makes sense.
I mean, especially if they want to promote any type of handheld console on the go. You don't want to have competing consoles in your pocket now, do you?
I mean, the way they put it when they started this was they felt like those two things could coexist because they're a different kind of vibe.
They also said that they could coexist, that mobile phones could coexist with the Switch in voice chat because everyone has a phone, right?
Let's not talk about the voice chat situation. It's a mess. But Nintendo doesn't understand the internet, okay? They don't get it.
It's okay. We'll talk about what Nintendo does understand a little bit later.
Yes.
Anyways, let's move on then to Warner Brothers and MultiVersus. As it has been
in the news.
Multi-gone.
Yes.
Yes, MultiVersus has been removed from all digital storefronts. Not permanently.
No.
Because Warner Brothers and developer Player First Games is preparing to relaunch it next year.
So this news actually last week we talked about a couple of other things instead, but this is my way of kind of like scooping it into one story here.
All right. So last month it was announced that the game was set to be taken offline and that it would return in early 2024. Well, on Tuesday, community manager Corey Taylor posted a message to the game's official Discord server informing players that the game has now been pulled from stores and its premium currency, Galenium, is no longer available to purchase. Quote, as of now, MultiVersus is no longer downloadable for new players and has been temporarily removed from storefronts along with Galenium.
So,
end quote.
So what's going on here is that, and this is the story from last week, is that Warner randomly just announced one day, it's like, hey, MultiVersus beta period is over. Which a lot of people were very confused by because never before in the game's launch had they used that term before.
That it was a beta.
Everybody assumed that game was just straight up out. It was free to play. You could buy expansions, buy additional characters for it. There was no indication that it was in a beta, like in a beta scenario. Like everybody thought, it's like, no, this game's out. It won the video game award last year for best fighting game. Like everybody just said, this is a product. This is a game. This is out. So everybody was kind of thrown off when they made that announcement. And now they're to the point where like, oh no, now you can't even buy it in its current state. So a lot of people are wondering, like, was this their way to like secretly retool it without necessarily saying that they're fixing it because they don't want it to sound like a negative?
It sounds like a crisis.
Which it doesn't even seem like it was that broken to begin with. It seemed like people really enjoy that game.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This is just like feels like a power move where they're just like, I don't know. We can just tell them that was a beta and that the real MultiVersus is coming out later. It just seems weird. It seems like a very strange move for a very popular game.
I mean, it is a game based on Warner Brothers property, and I'm trying to think if there's any type of contract or legal like they have to remove certain characters.
Things have to disappear randomly and then somehow reappear later. It's the HBO Max model.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Warner. I'm assuming you're right. Is that something larger in larger corporate realm is probably causing this to happen? Maybe. It's just weird.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about like corporate realm, like who has the rights to actually put stuff on a video game or not.
Yeah, we'll get there. Oh boy.
Anyways, we played some games though.
Yeah, so this week marked the launch of the New Game Plus mode for God of War Ragnarok, your favorite video game of last year.
Yeah, it did.
You tried some of this.
Yes.
Tell me about New Game Plus.
So this was a surprise release. I was not expecting it. It just came from a blog post, just random Wednesday afternoon, to say, hey, by the way, we updated God of War and you now have New Game Plus. Oh, and the list of all the extra stuff that comes with it just randomly dropped. So supposedly this is supposed to come last week because it was supposed to be a part of the first quarter of 2023. We knew it was coming. They said it was supposed to be in early 2023 to spring. Technically, I guess they're counting April as spring, and technically April counts as the next year in terms of financials. So maybe that's why they did it. But yeah, God of War Ragnarok New Game Plus is here. Cool. You have to complete your first playthrough in order to unlock New Game Plus. Yeah. All your stuff gets carried over. You get all the new armor sets that can, if you upgraded them previously, you can upgrade them even further with the new drops. There's a lot of other interesting things in here, including the new battle arena in Niflheim, where you can play as either Kratos or Atreus and have multiple different unplayable characters before team up with you.
Hey, cool.
Like Thor, like Brock, like Sindri, like Freya. You have all these different combinations in that Niflheim arena to do the different challenges. Now, unfortunately, you can't take them outside into the main story.
No.
But it's still cool to have the different team ups in like a battle in an arena type setting where you can fight with them and create different combinations.
Awesome.
Also interesting is that there is a debuff mode. So if you want to play, if you want to be crazy,
give yourself a challenge,
or if you want to like be speedrunner on this thing, there are certain debuffs you can purchase for like rare mineral hack silver in the game. Just like the completely unclothed Kratos. Weird saying, I know.
Sorry?
So it's Kratos. That's the skin, though. It's him without.
It is the skin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's him without the armor. It's him without his gauntlets, and him with the basic Spartan belt. And it all has 0 stats on it.
Oh, okay.
So all your like strength and buffs, gone.
You become extremely vulnerable.
Not only that, but there's also a bunch of debuffs that you can add. Like every time you roll, you get frostburn.
Oh no!
Like you get limited healing. You can only like parry once every like 10 seconds instead of like trying to block continuously, or your shield breaks more often.
Man.
There's a lot of different debuffs in here to help create like more challenges.
Brutal.
And yeah, no, it is brutal. I wouldn't want to do it.
No,
I don't know why he would put this in a game.
I mean, it's to the point, like, it's probably where it's for those players who have played the game to death and they're like, well, I want a challenge. This is hard to me.
Oh, they gave them a challenge.
Yeah.
It's like a god laughing, like, haha, you want a challenge?
Yeah.
I'll show you a challenge.
Exactly.
It just takes everything away.
I mean, couldn't be me, but there's somebody out there that wants
that. There's someone out there.
Yeah.
But also the good thing about this is that even if you don't want to actually do the challenge, you can reskin your setup.
Okay.
So you can have all your buffed up items, and then just reskin it so it's just Kratos walking around with nothing.
That's cool because I like that in like MMOs have done that before, where it's like, oh, I want the strength, like the stats of this thing, but I want it to look like this other thing.
Yeah. Well, I did that a lot in the game that shall not be named because I like the way my character looked,
and you don't want,
and I didn't want all the goofy stuff that was hanging off of her.
Yeah, I bet.
So I was like, I like my way my character looks because it looks like a very in-universe look
Yeah.
without being too wacky.
Right.
So I like that option.
Makes
I
sense.
wish more games did that.
Yeah, no, I feel like games should do that. Should
Yeah.
always offer that. It's cool. Okay, well, yeah, that's awesome. So more life in a game that is a single player experience and is done fairly quickly. It's like good to see them adding things for you to be able to come back and enjoy it again.
Yep. There are two things that they took away from the end game, but that's because they are story driven.
Okay.
But not one of the weapons, which is also story driven, which is kind of fascinating. But I think that like if you go in, like you take your weapon away, it's like, well, I gotta wait towards the end of the game to unlock the weapon. But then when I unlock it, I already have everything done from what I did in the previous game. No, just gives me the stuff that is blocked is bow and arrow based, which is helps for puzzle solving and not for progression mostly.
Okay.
So there's a good reason for what they did. I think they did a good job balancing it so far. I'll probably end up streaming this on Monday. I'll think about doing it Wednesday, but I didn't get enough time.
Yeah.
And then I was gonna do it Friday, but
Friday you were busy.
I was busy.
But yeah, no, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad that New Game Plus is here. It's gonna give me some thing to play while I have PGA coming.
Yeah.
So next week I'll talk about PGA 2023, the tour, where someone awesome will go on the tour.
Hey, someone awesome coming back. We'll talk a little bit more about golf later.
Yes, but in the meantime,
yes.
Speaking of games that are old,
I finally played another game. So I've been waiting for it with bated breath. It is here. I got my copy of Resident Evil 4.
I feel like you've been talking about this thing for like 2 weeks, trying to wait for it to come.
Well, because I knew I was excited to try it, and oh my god, did it pay off. This is one of the best games I've played in a long, long time. I love everything they did with the remake of Resident Evil 4. This was a game I only dabbled in when it was originally released. This time, it is completely taken. Like, I am completely in it. I am deep in it. I am almost done with it. That is how deep I am in it. I have almost spent 20 hours just tearing through this campaign. It is so much fun. It is so refined. They've fixed so many little things, so many details. It's a beautiful looking game. Just everything they fixed like feels even better than the original. Like, it is just an amazing piece of game design that they've refined here into the like a very refined gem. Like that's what this feels like. Just moment to moment, it feels great to kill zombies. It's still a goofy ass fun universe to be in. It does not take itself too seriously, which is something that I think people were maybe worried about when remaking the game. I don't know if you know how goofy Resident Evil 4 is.
No. Is this in Raccoon City?
No. So basically it takes place after all the Raccoon City stuff has gone down. It is not the same T virus that caused the zombies in the first place. It is a new disease that is infecting the people of Spain. And it is called Las Plagas.
Spanish for the Black Death.
Yeah, basically. And you have to deal with all these guys. And they're not just like those slow zombies from before. They will rush you. And there's a lot of them. But the game is tuned to react to that. It's more of an action game than it is survival horror. Okay. But the remake kind of sets those balances a little bit more off, where it's like there's enough survival horror moments in there tossed in to add flavor to it. But for the most part, it's an action game with some puzzle elements. But yeah, so far, just the flow of the game is really, really perfect. It really knows when to pull and release that tension on you. Moments of really big action moments are balanced out by like, hey, you're just going to wander around this area for a while and solve these puzzles. Look around your environment, see what these tiles need to be set to, that kind of thing. But yeah, with retaining the goofiness of the original. This is how goofy Resident Evil 4 is. There are notes around that are just like put up by villagers that are just like, hey, can you shoot down these blue medallions that are hanging from ceilings? I hate these things. And yeah, you have to shoot down blue medallions. It's super video gamey and funny. then there's like, oh yeah, and kill all these rats in this area while you're at it, or kill or sell these vipers, these snakes that you find in boxes sometimes. You just whack a box and a snake will jump at you. It's just goofy shit like that. There's a minecart level. One of the main enemies in this game is this short little Napoleon guy. But that's the wonderful part about this game, is that it's a game that looks like it would take itself fairly seriously in a franchise that's known for being, I don't know, maybe a little goofy, but fairly serious and dark and scary. And the thing but they strike such a perfect balance in 4 that it never feels too serious and it never feels too silly. It really rides that line. But it's just, I'm having a blast with it. It is one of the most pure fun video games I've played in a long time. I love upgrading my items. I love, like, I've just fully upgraded a pistol and it just feels great to use. And like, man, it just keeps getting better and better as it goes on. I'm really excited to see what they do at the end. I've already had a knife fight with the dude from a previous Resident Evil game that I wasn't anticipating. I've killed a sea serpent in a lake with some harpoons in a motorboat. Yeah, I can't imagine where it's going to go now. It's a blast.
So did you play the original 4?
A little bit. I dabbled in it. I got like maybe an hour or 2 in on the Wii version. This is better in every way. Okay. They've improved every little bit of it. Even the kind of skeevy stuff, and the like kind of weird shit that they did with Ashley, the president's daughter, who you're rescuing in this game. In the original game, that's that one.
Okay, that's this one.
So in the original game, she was 17.
Right.
She's aged up to 20 here.
Okay.
And she's no longer wearing a skirt. It's a skirt. So no more creepy looking up her skirt while she's climbing up the ladders this time. They've basically gone on and been like, okay, anything that people would be like, this is not cool in 2023, they've adjusted. And it's better for it. I think Ashley is a better character now. They've really added some depth to her. I like their dynamic together. The characters are great. Like, the story is fun. Just what a fantastic video game. It's just, I'm having such a blast. And it's almost to the point where, like, maybe when I finish it, I might like try some sort of New Game Plus, because there's stuff baked into the game already that allow you to take in. It's a Resident Evil tradition to just be like, okay, you're done, and take these weapons and do it again.
You mean a game that just comes automatically packaged with New Game Plus?
I know, you don't have to wait for it like Sony makes you. It's wonderful. So yeah, I'm excited to play more of it, and they're going to add that Mercenaries multiplayer mode soon, which sounds cool.
Multiplayer, not MultiVersus, right?
Not MultiVersus. Okay. No. Although I do believe that traditionally they add characters from other Resident Evil games into those modes.
Oh,
so maybe is MultiVersus of sorts. So yeah, Resident Evil 4, it's good. It's as good as people said it was. Turns out
it's as good as they thought it was.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and I'll probably talk about it again once I wrap it up.
Okay.
But that's all I played, and a little bit more of the show. I'm still not out of the minors. Like I said, Carlos Estevez is our closer, so I don't think they're going to move me up anytime soon, unless he gets hurt or something.
I'm sorry, but Charlie Sheen is Tiger Blood.
Yes, exactly. Tiger Blood is keeping me from being the closer for the Angels.
By the way, at the game yesterday, that guy was huge.
Yeah, Carlos Estevez?
Yeah,
he's a big guy.
Yeah,
he's a big guy.
He stands over literally everyone on that team.
More intense than the always intense Matt Chapman.
Oh no, he's very intense.
I can't believe Matt Chapman went to El Toro. I feel like my brain broke. Like when I found that out, I was like, wait, are you telling me this guy's local too?
Yes, he's very intense.
But I don't think they would have ever played against each other, Sandoval and Chapman, because I feel like one, there's an age difference. Yeah. But also, too, I don't think they're in the same division.
Yeah.
Because what division were we? I don't remember Mission's division back then.
Trinity, something.
Maybe. No, it doesn't sound right. Were we in whatever. Who cares?
Toro's orange.
High school sports. Who knows?
High school sports.
Anyway,
speaking of high school sports.
Speaking of high school sports, let's move on to the second half of the show and talk about television. And we always start the television section with the Sports Corner. We start with one shining moment, as it happened, as it does every year, with the crowning of the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship.
And in a dramatic turn of events, the women's game was more exciting to watch than the men's game.
And had a lot more to talk about than the men's game.
Yes.
But the men, UConn ended up taking it over San Diego State.
Boo.
Sorry, Aztecs.
Congratulations.
Yes, sorry, Aztecs. San Diego shed one single tear. But yeah, UConn had their shining moment. So congratulations to them. Then meanwhile, as you mentioned, the women's tournament also wrapped up with LSU taking it over Iowa in a dramatic fashion.
Yes.
So.
The one shining moment, it happened. I feel like the one shining moments for the men's side happened a lot earlier in the tournament than it did in the finals.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it didn't kind of ruin it, but hey, at least it was there. And yeah, congratulations to LSU.
Yeah.
Great game.
Yeah, sounded like it. Sounded like it was quite a dramatic finish to that one. Moving out of college basketball into, let's go straight into professional basketball here with the NBA. The Eastern Conference playoffs are solidified. We have the Milwaukee Bucks clinching the best league record as well.
Yep. And the cutoff for the Western Conference has been officially made as of last night. There's only a couple games left, and all that's remaining is who's going to be either secured in the playoffs or has to do the play-in. But the Eastern is all set. They already know who's in the play-in. They already know who's on who's already in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's just the Western has some last-minute shuffling, possible shuffling.
Every day.
I'll put there quotes, possible shuffling, because they're like a game separating a couple of these teams.
Okay. So we'll see.
Yep.
See what happens. Meanwhile, baseball season rolls after its opening week. Was a rousing success, especially if you're the Tampa Bay Rays, as they are the only team that is undefeated so far in their season, going 7-0.
Yep. We obviously know that will not continue.
No, baseball. There are too many damn games in baseball for anyone to be undefeated. You're lucky if you get like over 100 games. So good luck to the Rays to keep that streak going.
Yeah, but hey, at least it's a streak that we can look forward to ending probably this weekend.
Probably. But meanwhile, in the rest of the leagues, kind of strange results so far this season.
Yeah.
A lot of surprising standings with the Phillies largely underperforming in their division after going to the World Series last year.
I keep hearing from my boss about how great the Milwaukee Bucks are, Brewers are, not the Bucks.
Yep, the Brewers are
but also the Bucks
are rolling right now 6-1.
Yep.
It's like definitely mixed results, but again, there's a lot of baseball to play. So we'll see how things shake out as the season continues.
And in our ever watching home run derby watch.
Yes.
Bryant Reynolds of Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yes.
Currently in first place of the home run watch with 5.
Yes. So we will continue to watch as the season continues.
Yep, but hey, right behind him is the polar bear, Pete Alonso.
Yep, still going.
From the Mets.
So moving on to hockey, 13 playoff spots have been secured. The Boston Bruins have clinched the best league record there. So Bruins continuing to be stellar this season.
I mean, we already knew they were going to probably clinch the best record. But 127 points.
That's a lot of points.
Yes, it is.
That's like 20 points more than their most the closest rival, which is pretty crazy. So doing pretty well. It'll be an interesting playoff series to watch.
Yep. 13 out of the 16 spots have been clinched, including, for the first time, your Seattle Kraken.
Yes, which are happy to see a new franchise make it.
Yep. There's only just like with basketball, there's only a couple games remaining in the NHL season. Both of them will wrap up, I believe, next week. So we'll have who is in the playoffs by the time next podcast.
All right. So we'll talk about that next week. In the meantime, we move on to golf. The Masters are this weekend with Brooks Koepka and Jon Rahm, your favorite.
Jon Rahm.
In the lead with -12 and -10, respectively.
Yes. Do you know how to Rahm it? Rahm it.
We'll see if he can Rahm it into the lead spot here this weekend.
So, reason I bring up these two names, specifically, not just because they're in the lead, but because it is Brooks Koepka, currently of Live Golf,
Oh, right.
versus in the lead against John Rahm, currently of the PGA Tour.
Right.
There's some tormental weather going on in Augusta, Georgia right now, where the Masters is taking place.
Okay.
Lots of rain, lots of wind, lots of cold.
So could you argue that because of this affiliation, that this is almost like a battle for golf soul in a way, where like the winner will ultimately like determine kind of the wave of things to come here?
It would be if Brooks Koepka wasn't shitting on Live Golf.
Oh shit, really? He's bad mouthing it while also participating in it?
Oh, let's just say he's voicing some regrets of being a part of Live Golf.
I bet. I saw, by the way, the first promo I've seen on television while watching the CW's fine program, Riverdale.
For Live Golf?
For Live Golf. And I was like, oh, that's right. The CW got this thing.
Yes. CW got the TV rights,
God.
But it's on Saturday mornings.
No one's going to watch that.
No.
Literally, Christy turns to me, is like, what is that? I'm like, yeah, no, it's not worth explaining what's going on there. No one will care.
It's a Saudi-backed one.
What is on CW anymore? Well, that's the answer.
Well, they're trying to pare it down, right, for the sell?
I guess so. Yeah, that's the way you want to sell it, with that bomb on the lineup, right?
Anyway. Yeah, anyways, Brooks Koepka was kind of like voicing his regrets of taking the money, going to Live Golf, because if he was to break his contract and return back to the PGA, he would have to pay back 4 times what they paid him.
Right.
So it'd be somewhere north of $500 million just to break his contract.
Right. That's pretty penny.
Yeah. You don't casually have that on hand as a golfer.
No, it turns out you don't.
No.
So as we
he's also voicing a lot of his frustration that a lot of the stuff that was promised, like the TV deal,
yes,
which they said like, yeah, we'll get TV deals all across the world for Live Golf. Technically, CW is on TV. It's a deal.
They're technically a TV network.
It's technically a TV deal.
They qualify.
But yeah, no, he wishes that more people had more eyes on Live Golf. It's not like what he was kind of promised, what they were kind of selling it as, and not really what you want to hear outside of a major, not just a major tournament, but like one of the big major tournaments. The reason, just a little backstory. The reason why both Live Golf and PGA can't play in the Masters is because the Masters is not affiliated with the PGA. It is its own separate tournament. It is an invite only of the world's top golfers.
Right.
And the world's top golf rankings doesn't care which one you play for.
Yeah. So we will see how this pans out, and the battle for golf soul will continue.
We are wholly, heavily rooting for John Rahm.
Oh, yeah. I would be too. All right. Yeah. Apparently,
yes. You can hear the screams of John Rahm excitement behind us.
Meanwhile, is there anything else in sports before we move on to sports entertainment?
What do you mean? That is sports. All right.
We'll get there, but anything else in sports we need to wrap up before we move on?
Let's see here. XFL continues. USFL
will start soon, right?
Next, I believe that's next week.
Okay.
Yeah, the 14th, 15th. I think is that next week or the following week? 22nd.
Yeah, something like that.
So that, USFL is coming up. XFL continues.
Okay. Well, let's move on then into sports entertainment. I'm looking at the clock here, and we got to cruise through the second half of the show here.
We're good.
Tell me briefly about WrestleMania. You have here the WrestleMania happened this weekend. Roman Reigns won his third championship. What do they call it? Belt?
No, he didn't win his third championship.
That's why I'm asking. I don't know what the terminology is. Like, he won something.
Well, he won the main event of WrestleMania, holding his title for the third time. He continues to be the dominant head of the table, strong arming his way through the WWE. Essentially, now people are looking at his upcoming 1,000-day reign as the world heavyweight undisputed champion of wrestling, which isn't really that big of an accomplishment.
No, it's not.
No, you don't think so?
No.
Okay.
But what is, though, is what ultimately this led to. Anything else you want to say briefly about WrestleMania before we move on to the big news that shook wrestling this week.
Yes, so Cody Rhodes battled Roman Reigns in that main event, only to then lose because, of course,
right.
And then on Raw after WrestleMania, the Monday Night Raw event, it was Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns and one of his unduly henchmen in a tag team match.
Okay.
Only for Brock Lesnar to put Cody Rhodes in a body bag, sweep his leg, F5 him across the ring, and walk away before the match started, essentially carting off Cody Rhodes.
Jesus.
So
wrestling's stupid.
Yeah.
It really is. Every time I hear something, I'm just like about something that happened in a wrestling match, I'm like, wait, what's the fantasy of this world? Like, what's real and what's not? Like, I don't understand.
No, that's not what's real. He's the American Nightmare.
Yeah, you know.
The Beast Incarnate. F5, the American Nightmare in front of the tribal chief.
F5, what does that mean?
That's his move.
Like refresh?
Yeah, he puts them all on him, and then he spins them as he launches them F5ing in the air.
What's that? It still doesn't explain
that's
what that
a wrestling
means.
move.
Yes, but what does it stand for?
F5ing them.
Yeah. Anyways, I will never understand.
Bomb.
I will never understand. That's different, though. I know, that's a thing.
All the moves have different names. People.
Okay.
His are like F5, where he like puts them up on his shoulders and spins them.
But why is it called?
Why is it called F5?
Yeah.
Well, but then his other move is like a suplex.
Sure.
Yeah.
I know what that is.
They say
he's the Beast Incarnate.
Well, Suplex City.
Yeah,
I've heard that.
Well, and I think like these people come up with things to sell on T-shirts.
Yeah.
Say F5 my ass. Like they're always coming up with new like slogans and different things to sell merch. And
oh my god, you looked it up and it just says what you guys said. It doesn't say why is it called the F5?
Because the firemen's carry.
We don't have
Is it 5 firemen are carrying it? Oh, a category 5
from the movie Twister.
Oh, okay, sure.
It seems like there's no method to the madness.
No.
In WWE though, because it's like they rebrand these people.
Yeah.
We like. I'm not gonna say we're that into it, but we got into it during 2020 when there were no sports.
Right.
It was our sports entertainment.
It was the only thing.
We're starved of sports.
Yeah.
So we started watching it, and so we watch it once in a while, and my brother's friend is really into WrestleMania, so like we've been watching it with him even longer than that. But it's really interesting to see how they rebrand these people, and I think it's all for the merch.
Oh, absolutely.
It is.
Yeah, they have a product.
It's for the selling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're literally selling it.
Yeah.
And to progress the stories.
Yes, 1,000-day story.
I will say, yeah, I think like Twitterverse and everybody
is
disappointed that
they bring back Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare, as the golden child, and then he loses
it
is.
Up, and then they're like, "Oh, the same."
By the way, he's gonna lose.
Of course.
And it's like they've really beat. I mean, I don't know. Triple H should say different, but like they've really like beat the crap out of the head of the table story. Like it's 3 years, everyone's bored. Let's move on.
Yes, they're not done with it.
They're gonna move on.
Yes.
Because we have to move on.
Someday. Well, and they sold. Did you tell them?
This is what we're segueing into
right now.
So yes, the purpose of talking so much about WrestleMania is because the WWE was in the news this week as well. And this will just be this will be the end of our sports section.
It's TV
also
section.
Kind of our first TV story.
Yeah.
Which is, yes, they got sold. So a few weeks ago, we were talking about rumors implying that they were about to sell to the Saudi firm.
So this was at the beginning of the year when Vince McMahon came back as the chairman of the WWE, that there were rumors swirling about the possible sale of the WWE to a Saudi-backed investment group.
Well, that sale did not happen, but it seemed like other negotiations were happening behind closed doors, and one of which was with the Endeavor Group, which is the owner of UFC. Well,
UFC?
UFC.
UFC?
It's funny that you mentioned Brock Lesnar.
Yes.
Because he's famous for being a UFC fighter for a very long time. Well, the WWE has officially sold to the Endeavor Group on Monday. The WWE and UFC, owned by Endeavor, are merging to form a $21 billion, quote, global live sports entertainment company, end quote. With the transaction, UFC was valued at $12.1 billion, and WWE had a valuation of $9.3 billion. Endeavor will have a 51% controlling interest, with the remaining 49% spread across the WWE's shareholders. Vince McMahon said, because he's back with the company proper now, quote, the new company will be well positioned to maximize the value of our combined media rights, enhance sponsorship monetization, develop new forms of content, and pursue other strategic mergers and acquisitions to further bolster our strong stable of brands, end quote. Dana White, UFC's head honcho, has commented on the merger of the two companies, saying, quote, this company has been on fire for the last 7 years, and now that we will be adding WWE to the portfolio, I am excited to take this to another level, ... There is no limit to what this company can accomplish in the next 5 years. So, as somebody who is a fan of at least one of these entities, what do you think this means for the future of the WWE?
Conor McGregor versus Roman Reigns.
And I hope they knock that idiot out. Like,
which one?
Conor McGregor. I hope he gets knocked out.
Oh, I thought the other way around.
No, Conor McGregor is a bigger asshole, I think.
Oh,
don't quote me on that. I'm not sure.
Can we get Brock Lesnar to F5
Yes,
McGregor?
F5 him, please, for the sake of us all. Anyways, it could lead to some interesting things.
I mean, yeah, like I said, we saw Brock Lesnar, we saw Ronda Rousey, make the transition as well.
Great fighters
of their time.
Sure,
of their time.
Do you think this means we'll have a wrestling match on Fight Island? Bring back Fight Island.
Fight Island or Bellator or whatever it was.
Victoria or whatever. Anyways, yes.
Yes.
Weird.
WWE officially sold.
Yeah, it happened.
Yeah.
But the worst news, of course, of all this is that, yes, it seems like Vince is back, and it doesn't seem like there's any evidence that he will leave again, which is bad news, because there was that one little moment in time where it looked like we were scot-free of him, and it looks like that's not the case.
But yes, he did bring him back because he basically, for the very long time, was the face of WWE.
And I understand contractually he had to be involved in a sale if that happened.
Wants the payday.
And he wants the payday for it. And he wants also the credit for it, too.
Yep.
If there's a big success, he wants to be the face of it still, so that way he looks better. Like, let's just put it this way. There's a very fine line between Donald Trump and Vince McMahon. They're basically the same person, like, in almost every way. So, and there's a reason why they're besties.
Yes.
Out. But yeah, I hope this scumbag gets what he deserves at some point, but looks like
Donald Trump?
Both, really.
Oh, both. Okay.
Quite a week for that, huh?
Yes.
We're not a politics podcast, but yes, we don't have time to get into that can of worms. But yeah, sad to see Vince is back, but maybe this could be good for everybody involved. I don't know. I have hard to believe. I find that hard to believe with how shitty UFC is as an organization as well. It's just shittiness combining to equal more shittiness, I think.
And as I've said before, WWE and especially WrestleMania is one of the greatest spectacles put to screen. One of the greatest live spectacles.
It's a spectacle for sure, in all the meaning of that word.
Yes.
Where it's effervescent and it dissolves very quickly. But yes, it's fun in the moment.
Yes.
But enough about wrestling. We got to move on.
Yes.
Speaking of something else that has had some troubled years recently.
Speaking of people that we not want to mention in our mouth.
And yet we have to, because this week, Harry Potter's back in the news, this time on television.
Well, that's why they're in the television section.
Yes, specifically coming to HBO Max. The long-rumored Harry Potter series for HBO Max is on track to clear the biggest hurdle in its path, quote, not quote, sorry, colon, a deal with the book's author, of course, J.K. Rowling, who has creative control over any use of her work. Warner Brothers is in talks with Rowling to join the project as a producer. Once she comes on board, the project is expected to look for a writer. The general idea is for each season of the potential TV series to focus on one book each, which consists of 7 novels. Warner Brothers Discovery CEO Zaslav has stressed multiple times his focus on franchises, with mining the Harry Potter IP identified as a priority. He has met several times with Rowling and is speaking up in support of the author, who has been involved in an ongoing controversy over her comments on transgender issues. So
this goes hand in hand with HBO Max now gaining back, I think, the rights to the films and the Fantastic Beasts films, which are now streaming on HBO Max.
This is just frustrating because it's like, didn't they learn anything over the last few years of discourse? It's like, no, we want, like, the ideal situation here is to enjoy a Harry Potter that is untainted by Rowling. The only thing is that so much of her is in its DNA. It's very hard to dissect that away.
Well, it's also the contract of
and
that.
The contract she
must be involved in anything related to it.
Yeah, so they're really caught. But the thing is the worst part about this is Zaslav doesn't care. He's supporting her here and wants her to actively be involved in the project if it goes through.
I wonder if that's what they're kind of negotiating, is a morality clause.
I don't know, because at this point, if they cared about that shit, I don't think they'd be doing it.
Well, they have to have her on board through to the first season. Now, if they, for any reason, kick her off for post second, for their 4th seasons,
I don't see it happening.
Yeah,
I think if she's involved, she's involved in the. I think she's involved in the long run if this happens, because Zaslav clearly says he's interested in having her on the project.
He wants that Harry Potter IP. That's all he wants. He doesn't care about.
Doesn't seem like that's how the story is written, though. It says that he supports her, which means that that's not something he's not willing to just drop her off, without necessarily using her on the project proper. I think that's the thing here is that
but he's doing the lip service to get her to sign.
He does not care. I think that you're wrong. I think that he does not care about the public perception. He's like, well, this is Harry Potter. She is Harry Potter to me, and this would work. We're working with her. I don't think that's he doesn't see it as a question.
All right.
So either way, I don't care. I think that it would make sense for at least the property to be adapted into a series. It is very trendy right now to have these long series of fantasy works on television.
Especially if they want it on whatever HBO Max gets turned into.
It's a lucrative IP to get. I get why they're doing it, but Jesus Christ, not now. Like, I feel like this is the worst timing that they could have for this, and that's a major hurdle that they still have not overcome. And I don't think they will. I think this little thing will launch. I think we'll have a similar discussion that we did with the video game.
Before anyone's saying it's too soon, it's by the time the thing even comes out, at the earliest, it'll be 25 years since the first film.
It's just frustrating. Yes, I realize that, but still, I just don't just move on. Just do something else. It's tainted. The IP is tainted. It's over.
Well, see, that's a good thing about the video game is that they actually mentioned in the game there are other schools that they could do.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. That's not what I'm saying. The entire IP is tainted, is what I'm saying.
The entire IP.
Just move on. Adapt something else. We're done. We've moved on. Just stop trying to deal with it with this person who's obviously terrible.
More wizards everywhere else.
There are other magic
Space Wizards?
There's other magic franchises.
Space Wizards.
Yeah. Adapt a book about space wizards into a television show. That sounds way cooler.
Yeah.
Space Wizards.
A little green space wizard.
Yes, let's do it. Let's move on.
Yes.
Anyways, that's it for television. Did we watch any television this week? Apparently not.
Oh, no. We watched stuff. Just nothing new.
Okay. Yeah.
Love is Blind had its last 3 proper episodes released on Friday. However, they will be doing a live reunion of Love is Blind.
Yeah.
I want to say that's next week. It's either the 14th or the 16th. I forget what it said on Netflix.
Okay.
But yeah, next week will be a live reunion. And good thing Netflix didn't waste their $1 first time live event on this,
exactly.
and instead wasted it on the Chris Rock one.
Wasted it for sure.
Oh.
The only thing we watched this week, just quick, I'll mention this quickly. Season 7 of Riverdale started, as I mentioned on the CW. It's still batshit insane.
Is this its final season?
Its final season. They did a time jump backwards. They are in the 1950s. It is 1955. They are high school juniors again.
Wait, I thought it was supposed to be contemporary.
The multiverse still exists.
In Riverdale?
Yes.
What?
There still is a way where they could return to their current timeline. Everything that's happened is still referenced in the first episode. It's just that the rest of the characters don't know this has happened because they just are in the 50s without knowledge of anything that's happened elsewhere in the series. But the audience knows, and at least one character in the show knows, at least in the first episode, potentially one going forward. There's angels. They're still waiting for a meteor to fly by. There's still time travel and dimension jumping explosions and serial killers, and it's still absolutely insane.
You lost me on. They're 6 years into this.
Yes.
So in theory, they'd be at least,
Yes.
at minimum, 2 years out of high school.
Oh yeah, no.
And they're going back
Yes.
into high school.
We're supposed to believe that these adults are juniors in high school.
Yes.
It's amazing. Just it is an incredible
Like,
show.
does everyone like see them as themselves or just as the high school version of them?
Everybody sees them as high schoolers. Yeah. 1955. 1950. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's ridiculous. I'm excited to see what they do.
I'm glad that's ending.
I'm excited to see how they wrap
That's
it
okay.
up.
I can't really speak because I was very invested in Marvel's Agents of
Sure.
S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes, which also went off.
And
the
that
rails.
also went super off the rails and super comic booky in all the weird ways.
Yeah. So looking forward to see how they wrap that up. Let's move on. Cancellations and renewals.
All right. What am I no longer watching?
Well, you'd be happy to know that your show that you talked about last week, The Big Door Prize, will be being renewed for a second season on Apple TV+.
That makes me curious as to what they're going to do for the end.
Who knows? Next up, Showtime has canceled Ziwa, I believe. Canceled after 2 seasons. The Resident, canceled after 6 seasons on Fox. Sex/Life, canceled after 2 seasons on Netflix. And then we have some deaths. Judy Farrell, age 84, was an actress in MASH and TV writer for Port Charles. Bill Butler, age 101, a cinematographer, worked on Jaws, Grease, and Rockies 2 through 4.
But not the original.
Not the original.
But yeah, all the remaining Rockies.
Jeez, 101.
Yeah.
Long life. And then Norman Reynolds, age 89, production designer for Star Wars episodes 4 through 6, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and won Oscars in 1978 and 1982.
He was Lucasfilm's in-house production designer.
Sounds like it. Yeah, definitely made a visual impact on culture with how important those movies were at the time and just how they affected the look of sci-fi movies going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a storied career. One that you don't have, I don't remember his name. So remember we had heard a few weeks ago that the members of S Club 7 were going to reunite and have a reunion tour?
Yes, you mentioned this.
So unfortunately, right before this is set to happen, one of the original S Club 7 members has passed at a very young age, at 48. So that was sad news that hit, I believe, yesterday. So yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one, especially weird timing. All right, let's move on to the next section here, which is movies. And we start the movies with the weekend box office numbers.
All right.
We start with...
Oh, right there. Paul Cattermole.
There he is. Yeah, sad. Oh, 46. I was even off with the age.
Mm-hmm.
All right, start with the box office. And number 1 this week is Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, which debuted to $37 million. Respectable amount, but not a huge hit.
A meek $37 million.
But still came over the top of last week's number 1, John Wick Chapter 4, which drops down to $28 million this week and has 123 domestic. The number 3, His Holy Son, with a $5.5 million debut.
That's your Easter weekend release.
Good timing for that. Number 4, Scream 6, with another $5.3 million. That's just 98. Will creep over the $100 million line next week.
Yep.
And Creed 3 You're number 5 with $5 million, adding to $148 million. I don't need to tell you that next week it's all Mario all the time, baby.
Yep, that's going to be this upcoming weekend.
Yes.
So it's going to get that Easter family, let's all go to the movies kind of bump.
Yeah.
But at least for this past week, Dungeons and Dragons was able to roll out the #1 movie in America brand.
Yep. For this week.
Because
it won't be next week.
Yep.
So yes, obviously Super Mario Brothers movie was this week's big release. The 2 coming up this week, actually, I read last week for some reason. So I'm going to, maybe the dates are wrong. So,
well, no, they actually got moved out
They moved out.
week.
Okay.
Like a last second move out. It was,
all right.
It was limited to wide.
So Renfield, the Nicolas Cage Dracula movie, and The Pope's Exorcist, which we're still not sure whether the Pope is performing the Exorcist or
the exorcism,
or if the Pope is being exorcised. Either way, those movies are this week.
They get the wider release this week.
But we'll still be
your exercising Pope past Easter weekend.
But we'll still be destroyed by Super Mario Brothers.
Probably.
All right, let's move into movie news.
Yep.
We begin with some more franchise shit, which is, hey, yes, you're picking up the phone here, but hey, nothing's been confirmed yet.
Okay, there's some vibrations there.
Yes, but rumors are swirling after some comments that James Gunn has made over Marvel and DC. James Gunn is starting the press rounds in support of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which marks
1 month away from.
Yes, which of course marks his final directorial effort for Marvel. He already has 1 DC movie under his belt with 2021's The Suicide Squad, but of course, Gunn is now leading DC Studios with Peter Safran and has created a new DC universe that will kick off with 2025's Superman Legacy, which Gunn is writing and directing. Gunn has been open about Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige supporting his transition to leading DC Studios. When asked by Empire magazine about a Marvel DC crossover event, he said, quote, "I'm certain that's more likely now that I'm in charge. Who knows? That's many years away, though," Gunn added. Quote, "I think we have to establish what we're doing at DC first. I would be lying to say that we haven't discussed it, but all discussions have been very, very light and fun." Stop picking up that phone. The thing is that you have to keep in mind about the entertainment industry, and this is movies, television, everything. People are always talking about everything. You just always assume that if you thought of it, an executive thought of it first and has had that conversation.
Or if you thought of it, an executive will claim to have thought of it first.
So I don't put any value into this because literally they're always talking about this shit. Of course, James Gunn, a person who's directed movies for both franchises, has had that conversation with somebody at Disney and at Warner. Of course he has. Because it's the same shit that we talk about, they're talking about because they're aware that the fans want it.
Are you saying we're not original?
There's a difference, though, between when executives think that something would be a neat idea and it actually happening, because that is when you have to get the legal team involved.
Yes.
That's where this is an absolute nightmare. And that's why I think it'll never happen. Because when you actually get to the logistics of it, Disney's lawyers and Warner's lawyers have to have a superhero style battle. And Disney's lawyers are going to win that every time. I'm sorry. It's like they're super, super protective over their IP.
Well, they have to negotiate not just contract and pay, but also production, who gets the production
and who's
rights,
the star?
Who's the star?
Yeah.
How much screen time does everyone get?
Can you imagine having that conversation with
what
Disney
the villain
execs
is
about who gets top billing in that film?
Oh yeah, it's discussed top billing.
Yeah, it's like
there's someone's name goes first, unless you do the cop-out thing of just both of them show at the same time.
It's an Olympic track and field event. There are so many hurdles. Like that's how many hurdles there are. There's a gunshot and there are
there's a gun
at the end of
the
it.
gun is shooting.
Yes,
Gun is shooting Superman Legacy.
But yeah, no, there's just so much work. Of course, the talks have been very light and fun because they have to be. Because if you start talking seriously about it, you have to actually think about the logistics of it.
Of course, but it's fun to think about. Like, hey, like not over at DC, it'd be nice, huh? Nudge, nudge.
It's fun to think about, but I just think we're again, like he says, many, many, many years away from that even thinking of it, even happening.
I mean, you do have a point because even we saw how big Endgame was and how limited screen time was for all of those characters.
Imagine doing that with 2 franchises. with two studios warring about who gets the most time.
Right. I mean, you also have to figure out who is important enough to cross over, especially since with Marvel, we're going to be getting into both Fantastic Four and X-Men.
And then DC, obviously, like Gunn says here, they have a lot of work to establish even what they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this hasn't even started yet. And so we have to wait.
He's laid out their gods and monsters plan
but
for
that
phase,
still doesn't mean
for chapter 1.
But the thing that is the moving part that hasn't been established is what actually catches on with audiences, right? Mm-hmm. Just like Marvel, they make some plans, maybe preliminary, but then when the movies actually come out, some movies fail, and then you have to deal with the repercussions of that in your universe. You have to decide later.
Looking at you, Inhumans.
Exactly. Some stuff clicks, some stuff doesn't. You don't know. So even if he does have something lined up, no one knows whether Superman Legacy is going to be a hit.
I'm sorry. You think Superman is going to fail at the box office?
It's done it before.
Ooh, no, Nick Cage never made it to the box office.
Well, anyway. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but I feel like that is decades away, if it even happens.
All right.
Let's move on to another big Disney-owned IP, which had a big celebration this week, Star Wars.
Yes, because in the UK, yesterday was 5/4.
Yes, right. Not our May the 4th, their May the 4th.
No, it's not even their May the 4th.
Yeah, it's like, the other way around.
Yes. Day and date.
Well, anyways, taking place at the Excel London Convention Center, Friday's activities on the celebration stage began with Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy treating fans to an exclusive first look at the second and final season of Andor, which is currently in production, and wowed the crowd with a sneak peek of the series. The Acolyte, a new series about a Jedi Wookiee that will stream exclusively on Disney Plus, was shown in 2024, which stars Carrie-Anne Moss and Margarita Leveva, and also that's a great name, and is also currently in production. One Margarita now. They also showed a sneak peek of Skeleton Crew, starring Jude Law, as he guides the journey of 4 kids who make a mysterious discovery on their seemingly safe home planet, then get lost in a strange and dangerous galaxy. Skeleton Crew will stream exclusively on Disney Plus in 2023. You had something to say about Skeleton Crew?
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, just like all these first couple shows are Disney Plus shows.
Yes. Including also...
Yeah. So we have... so Andor Season 2.
Yes.
The Acolyte. Skeleton Crew. And then this new one, well, the one that we knew, Ahsoka.
Yes. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni announced Ahsoka, starring Rosario Dawson in the title role, will premiere on Disney Plus in August 2023. Now that's a film, not a series, right?
That is a series.
Oh, that is also a series.
That is also a series.
Okay.
That is following Rosario Dawson in Mandalorian Season 2.
Right. And then came the films. The event ended with Kennedy revealing 3 new movies.
Yes.
The first by James Mangold, who directed Logan, about the first Jedi to wield the Force. Then the second by, didn't we just talk about this last week? Dave Filoni, about the escalating war between the Imperial Remnant and the fledgling New Republic. And then lastly, a film by director Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy, who was responsible for the series Ms. Marvel, about rebuilding the new Jedi Order, and with Daisy Ridley set to return as Rey.
Yes.
So
that was the big exciting
biggest news, I think, is having Rey's character come back. Otherwise, some exciting projects that may or may not get canceled 2 years later.
Yes. Notice that noticeably absent from this announcement was Taika Waititi's.
Or Rian Johnson.
Well, we already talked about Rian Johnson. Stuff was being delayed. As well as Kevin Feige's thing was being delayed. And the Rogue Squadron from Patty Jenkins was officially canceled.
Right. So
this is what took place of those 3 projects.
Yes. So but I think that another good thing here is congratulations Dave Filoni getting another upgrade.
And congratulations to Daisy Ridley for coming back.
Yes. Hey. So anything else in the Star Wars celebration we should mention? That was pretty much the biggest stuff.
That was the biggest thing. Depending on which kind of discourse you were looking at, you're either very happy or very upset that Daisy Ridley was back.
I mean, she did a good job in those movies. She did the best with what she was handed. I really liked her in Last Jedi.
Well, no, it's not that. It's that if Daisy Ridley is going to be leading the new Jedi Academy, people are upset. It's like, why didn't Luke Skywalker just do that?
Well, because he's not he didn't survive, right?
Well, no, because he tried and he failed.
Well, that too.
Yeah,
But-
they're forgetting that he literally tried
Yeah.
and literally failed because he couldn't overcome
Yeah.
like his own hubris.
Isn't that the whole plot of him in the new trilogy? Is that he has to face his past and all the shit
That
he
he was not
Yeah,
able to live up to the
exactly.
legacy of being Luke Skywalker.
Right, and that doesn't mean again we're criticizing fans who
Don't understand
always
the
don't understand dramatic
yes.
arcs for characters. But literally, there's opportunity here where Daisy Ridley could also have challenges. It's not like she's going to go in and be awesome at it. We don't know that for sure.
But one thing we could probably confirm: one of her students probably be Lil Grogu. Because of course.
Because everything has to come together.
Yes, everything has to connect.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
And we know that that he will at least live to be 700 years old. So this is taking place 15 years after Rise of the Skywalker.
Okay.
Or yeah, Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
So yeah, he should have a voice, probably, maybe. Hopefully.
Is it just Frank Oz? I hope it is. That'd be great. Let's do it. All right. Anyway, enough about Star Wars. Anything else in movie news before we wrap up?
There was a bunch of new trailers released. Barbie trailer.
Yeah, Barbie trailer
was
made
released.
Huge rifts this week.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Also,
I didn't realize it's a Lego movie scenario happening.
Where they're in their
humans
own
and
universe.
there's toys.
Yeah. And then the first trailer for Blue Beetle was released for DC's upcoming film.
Sure.
It's definitely a superhero movie.
Yep. They still make those.
Yeah.
Turns out.
And then the new trailer for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny was released.
Yeah.
That thing looks like it definitely got reworked between trailers.
Oh, yeah. They're working on that thing.
Yep.
We'll see how it works out for them.
All right.
Let's move on out of movie news then. And hey, we watched a movie. So for the last couple minutes we have, let's talk about it.
So last week we talked about the release of Tetris.
Yeah, Tetris.
The movie, not the game,
right.
but about the game.
Well, sort of. So
this podcast, we've been talking, kind of dropping hints about the legal trouble about who owns stuff, how to get contracts, how to get out of contracts, pricing, all that stuff.
So one of the most infamous stories in the video game world about ownership and struggles to figure out who owns what and rights and international rights and all that stuff. One of the most infamous stories, of course, is the story of Tetris. In my opinion, the best video game of all time.
I mean, we did do a bracket where we said, outside of individual franchises, Tetris is the best video game of all time.
Yeah, we did that. So the story of Tetris is an interesting one. Like it always has been. It was created in the USSR by someone who could not actually own it because of the way that the government was run at the time. And so rights had to be discussed basically with that company that he worked for and not him. He was like partial to some of the discussions, but he could not necessarily make money off of it at the time, and nor could he hand over the rights himself. He didn't own it. The government did in a lot of ways. And so Tetris, the film, is a slightly fictionalized, but mostly based on real events, telling of the story of both the creation, the ownership of Tetris, and more specifically, the negotiation of the rights to distribute Tetris internationally by Hank Rogers, a American / what is he? Turkish? No, not Turkish. Dutch. Yes, Dutch. An individual who was known for kind of being an interesting, eccentric businessman who had a lot of feet in a lot of different countries, a lot of different businesses, and
a lot of pots.
Yeah. So the movie opens with him working for a developer called Bulletproof Software, a real developer who did actually make NES games at the time. And he encounters at CES 1988, encounters Tetris, a version of Tetris not distributed at the time, basically being demoed for a potential distributor. And that's what happens at these, or what happened, I guess you would say, at these trade shows predating E3 by years. where you would show a game that has yet to have international distribution, be like, hey, do you want to distribute our game? But the thing is, as the movie later discovers, and Hank Rogers also later discovers, that wasn't even supposed to be there. They didn't have the right to distribute that at that show floor. And the rest of the movie is about the adventure of going back and forth between countries, negotiating with Nintendo in Japan, negotiating with the USSR government, getting in trouble with the government, and the many trials and tribulations it took to get Tetris on Game Boy in the United States.
So a lot of what goes on in the movie, and a lot of what I really liked about it, is the legal doctrines, but simplified so that everyone can understand it, but also it moves at such a fast pace that it's like, yes, we need you to understand this because we need to move on to what actually it means.
Yeah.
A lot of the contract negotiations, there's definitely the scene where the Russian president for Elrog was running back and forth between rooms. I doubt that actually happened, but it's a great visual of
it's a neat visual
of like picking up phones and like trying to like coordinate talks.
So how much of the story did you know going into this?
About 50%, I would say. A lot of it was like, okay, I don't know the actual players, but I've read stories of like this happening and this happening, and like trying to get like specific publishing rights and why they had to rename or redefine what a video game is compared to what a computer is.
So I recommend wholeheartedly a book called Game Over. It's a video game history book that's mostly about Nintendo, but does have a chapter about the Tetris situation and what really went down. I read this a few years back, and so I basically knew coming into this most of what happened in real life. And that's the interesting thing about this movie. So obviously, it's a movie, and
they take a lot of liberties and play up dramatic effect.
You have to make it a little bit more dramatic. Not to say that this stuff didn't happen, because largely this stuff did happen. But they do take liberties in some of the more like extreme it's just parts of the movie. There was no car chases. I'm sure there were no I don't think that anybody got beat up by government thugs as much as we'd love to believe that was true. And they've done interviews with Hank Rogers, who, by the way, him and Tetris creator Alexei Fedotov are still alive and still doing interviews. And they both basically said in the week moving up to this release, which was basically like, we knew that they were going to dramatize our experiences, and we said that was okay. We know you have to make movies, and we didn't have a problem with it. So at least they were game. No pun intended. But some of the stuff, I feel like some of the dramatizations worked. I think that overall, once you get into Act 2, I do think that pacing really speeds up, and you have a really interesting, gripping kind of back and forth. I think Act 1's not super strong for me. I think it started a little wobbly.
Act 1, it starts wobbly because it needs to set up all the different players, and it kind of bounces you around. But it does so in quite a quick succession, though.
Yeah, and then Act 3 I thought was just kind of silly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, I think your enjoyment of this movie will depend on how much of this is a, wow, I didn't know that happened moment you have with it. For me, I didn't have that at all, basically. And so maybe me going into it is not exactly everybody's experience. I am curious about what somebody with zero knowledge would think about it. Because there are moments where, like, okay, yeah, this is a gripping thriller. I can see why they sold this on that idea. But it's not there are things about it that I didn't love. The number one thing is you don't need the pixel art video game shit smeared all over it. You don't.
The level 1, level 2, level 3.
Yeah, you don't need those framing devices. You don't need the pixelization of when something happens, like when the cars run into other cars.
Oh, at the end.
It's
I thought that was
dumb.
Yeah.
I get why they do it, because to the average viewer, it's like, hey, video games.
Yes.
This is what we do when we're talking about video games. You need to see pixels. No, you don't. We're to the point now, I think, that you can just tell a story about video games and have it just be as interesting as, something like The Big Short. I
don't know. We're just getting into the world of where video games themselves can make interesting movies.
In fact, I mentioned The Big Short, and then that actually brings up. So I watched this with Christy, and Christy's first comment after watching 10 minutes of it was like, wow, they really love Adam McKay, don't they? Because that first act, it kind of goes away as the movie goes on, but that first act is very uses the Adam McKay style of little brief interstitials to remind you of the context of what's happening.
Yeah.
Like, oh, here's a video game version of this place. And like, it's again, we don't need it anymore. I feel like this was made 10 years ago, maybe. But no, in 2023, you can do a straight adaptation of this without having to be goofy about it, in my opinion.
It wasn't too okay. Maybe yes, it did get
Kinda
too goofy in very certain areas.
Also, speaking of goofy, the other thing I want to point out, Taron Egerton's really, really chewing some scenery here. Like, he's going for it. Hank Rogers is an interesting character, and I get why you'd want to lean towards the eccentricities of him. But he's a weirdo in this film, and it's just like, I feel like the guy's more normal than this. I just didn't buy it. I didn't really buy it. But the fun part for me was seeing all these people, real life people that I know just from reading, and like seeing pictures of them in real life. Like former owner of the Seattle Mariners, Howard Lincoln, is all over this.
Yes.
I love his depiction in this film, especially the line where he says that he fucking hates Atari.
Mm-hmm.
So good. I don't think that he ever said that in real life, but it's wonderful imagining that he did. And then the Nintendo players here outside of him, like seeing a fictional Hiroshi Yamauchi being way nicer than apparently real Hiroshi Yamauchi was in real life. He was apparently a huge asshole when he ran Nintendo. And then, it was neat to see that kind of in the background. Be like, oh yeah, I recognize these people from real life. It's cool to see fictional depictions of them. But again, just for me, because most people are not going to know who they are. But,
Right.
But yeah, it's a neat idea, and I think some of it works. But it was a little distracting for me a lot of the time with how goofy it got
didn't
in
like
presentation.
the goofy, hammed up, over dramatic.
No,
like
not really.
It
It didn't sell it for me. I think there is a more interesting version of this story that maybe could have existed, but we just aren't there yet, I guess. And they're not ready. A studio this big, I guess, is not ready to commit to a serious movie about something like this. And it's sad. It's sad to me that we're not there yet, but I feel like we're getting closer. And this is the closest we've gotten.
I think for someone who like only had like a passing knowledge of it,
Mhm.
a lot of it was very gripping. Yes, like I've been saying, like it's very over the top
Sure.
at times,
Mhm.
but that helps sell the gripping and at times very over the top desire for Tetris.
Yeah, I mean, it is a fascinating story, period. And I think that if anybody comes out of this, at least it's a fun story to know about that happened largely happened in the way that it's depicted. So, yeah. And it made me want to play more Tetris.
Yeah.
Because Tetris is a good game.
Tetris is the best game.
In the day, Tetris is the best game.
Yes.
Anyway, so that's Tetris. Maybe next week we'll talk about another video game movie.
Probably. I might have more time.
We'll see if we talk about Mario. Because Mario is out.
But we'll have
mixed reviews.
Yes.
It's like almost like everybody's finally realizing after they saw it, oh, right, it's an Illumination movie.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, I could have told you that.
I told you that. It was Illumination.
Yeah, anyway.
Anyways, we'll talk about that possibly next week.
In the meantime, though, thank you for joining us here at the Media Boat Podcast for this wonderful episode. We'll be back next week for another live episode, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, if you want to see video versions of our show, you can go to YouTube, search Media Boat Podcast, and find our channel. Like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications. Ding dong. You can also find us in audio form on podcast services such as Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Type in Media Boat Podcast and you'll find our feed. You can also find us on social media networks like Twitter, where we're at Media Boat Cast, Facebook, search Media Boat Podcast to find our page. You can also email us if you have questions, comments, things you want to have us talk about, whatever you want to do. Email us and we'll read your email on the air. That's mediaboatpodcast@gmail.com. We'll be on twitch.tv, streaming video games every once in a while. You can see archive of me playing Resident Evil 4 this week. You can also find in the future, you're going to jump on some PGA Tour. So.
Yep. Depending on when that comes, I'll either have play some God of War New Game Plus, or we'll see someone awesome on the Corn Ferry Tour.
Woo, someone awesome. So
making
yeah.
his way through Corn Ferry, trying to get to the PGA.
And you can always check out MediaBoatPodcast.com for an archive of all our writing and previous episodes. So, with all that said, we'll see you guys next week for another episode.
Yep, we'll be back next week with more news, more thoughts, more of us.
Yes. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. Real quick, brisk, right on time episode.
Hour 30. Love to see it.